Shalom, everyone. And this week we're going to study Parashat Shelaḥ-Lekha, the book of Numbers, chapter 13, or more known as the story of the spies Hamiraglim. Okay, for the ones who don't remember the story, don't know the story, to make it simple, in the timeline, we are now starting the story on the new moon of Tammuz, which is going to fall this month anyway. And the new moon of Tammuz, and what's the story? We had the Exodus on Passover, full moon of Aries, Nisan. 7 weeks later, and 1 day, Mount Sinai revelation. 40 days later, Moses comes down with the first set of tablets. He breaks them because the Israelites are idol worshiping with the golden calf. Then Moses is going up the mount second time. That was 17 of Tammuz, golden calf. Second time, it's the first day of Elul. Okay, and he comes back on Yom Kippur, the 10th day of Tishrei. The next day, building the tabernacle, it takes about 6 months, almost, and on the new moon of Nisan, dedicating of the new tabernacle, the portable temple they had in the desert. Okay, now, 2 weeks later, in last Parashah, celebrating Passover a year after the Exodus, probably 7 weeks later, celebrating Shavuot the first time. Shavuot is over. 3 weeks later, the Israelites are already at the gates of the promised land. So we are exactly a year and 3 weeks after Mount Sinai revelation at the gates of the Holy Land. It didn't take them 3 days, but they were busy building, receiving the Torah, losing it, getting it back, building a tabernacle, getting themselves first as the whole journey of a whole nation of 12 tribes situated like the 12 signs of the zodiac, with the tabernacle in the middle and the Levites around the tabernacle as kind of a human huge machine to connect the heavens with humanity. So first time after the sin of Adam, humanity is at ease like never before since the sin of Adam. Okay, 3 weeks later, okay, you got used to it, enter the new promised old land. Okay, so now we can understand this is the background. So they are at the gates of the promised land. Vaydaber Adonai Moshe le'emor, again, chapter 13 in the book of Numbers, verse 1, and God speaks to Moses saying, Shlach lecha anashim v'yaturu et eretz Knan. Send for yourself people to, and what's strange about it, the verb is tur. It's a Hebrew word, vayaturu, tourist, which means let them go and have a tourist journey around the land of Israel. The verb is pure Hebrew. In English, tur, and Hebrew, tur, vayaturu, and they will, in plural, do the tourism. Okay, that's a verb being used. Even today, a tourist in Hebrew is tayar, somebody who's doing the touring. Okay, and they will tour the land of Canaan that asher ani noten livnei Yisrael, that I'm giving to the children of Israel. Ish echad lemata avotav tishlachu kol nasi bahem. And you will send the chieftains, the presidents of each tribe, 12 of them. Okay. What has that story to do with us today, 2024? This is one of the most, how should I say, relevant parashot for today. Why? We are talking about sending the leaders themselves to be the first ones after centuries to step foot on the holy ground of the promised land. Okay? They come back with a very mixing, puzzled report. The result is horrible. Okay, I won't go into it right now, but first of all, what is the question? Here's the question. These are the chosen people. If you are the head, the presidents of the 12 tribes of Israel, it means that you have a board or government meeting with Moses very often. Moses could see who you are and what you are. Okay? You couldn't just lie to Moses. You have been the president of the tribe for months already because you've been better than anybody else in your tribe. Now you're being allotted that merit to be the first one of your tribe to step foot on the dreamland, your ancestral land, the land that you grew up on it. Since you being a baby, your mother, your father, your grandparents told you, we came from the promised land. Our ancestor Israel came down with our fathers of the tribes. Okay, and they promise us that one day we'll go back home to a promised land. We remember that word, promised land, for thousands of years. We are talking about at least 36, 35 centuries of having that expression being like, there's a promised land. Okay? And now you're coming to the promised land, and after 40 days of touring the land, you come back, and we know the story that 10 of the 12 where in their report was, there's no way we can get in. There's no way we can take that land. 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, said, what happened to you? Are you crazy? Well, of course we can do that. What happened to your logic? What happened to your common sense? Who does the people listen to? To the 10, the ones who came with the bad report. What's the other option? Now, can you go to Canada? Or maybe you want to go to Kazakhstan, or maybe go to Albania. I don't know. Like, there's no other option. What are you doing right now? You want to go back to the desert. It's totally illogical. And why is that so important for today? Because one of the major issues of our generation, especially when we're talking about the last decade, especially when we are talking about getting advices from professionals, from leaders, from revered people. And I don't know if you read, it's it's an old book. It's not that new. The March of the Follies, but by Barbara Tuchman. One of the most important history books ever written, according to my opinion. And it speaks about how great people with great minds, leaders, did not read the picture and made the most obscene, illogical decisions that affected history for who knows how long. And the question is, how could they make those mistakes? Couldn't they see that? Couldn't they see that? And this is the same question we have. As you know, we live in the year 2024, and so many of us are asking our leaders, our political leaders, the professionals, the technocrats, the people who are, university, academy, all of these people, can't they see what's going on? How come their decisions are so upsetting? How many people leave dictatorships in the world that believes in democracy? That still democracy, let's say on paper, is the law of the land. Okay? How many people do really feel that their leaders serve them and their needs? And we realize this is something that is getting lost. People vote for certain leaders not because they are the wisest, but because they're afraid that somebody else will come to power that is more dangerous. So you have a choice between being poisoned by something or get poisoned by something else. You choose the less poisonous thing, according to your opinion. You know, how many people really think that their leaders really know what's going on, and you can really count on their decisions? And you ask yourself, why is it that sometimes you ask a question like elementary school kids, and they will tell you, how come they don't see? Why is it so obvious to us, for us, but they cannot see that? This is the question. This is the question, how come people who are supposed to be professional in leading economy, politics, statesmanship, they're supposed to lead and they're supposed to have decisions that are based on a lot of information. And we see mistakes after mistakes, and we see that the world that we thought, you know, most of the world thought during even the 70s and the 80s that, you know, there are many, many bad things in society. But in a big sense, you know, if you look at what's going on in world history, just by a perspective, things are just getting better. I don't think that people see that today. People believed, we talk about the 60s and 70s and 80s and even 90s, that the future of the next generation is much brighter than our future. Today, more and more people don't believe that. They look at their kids with pain, sorrow, and anguish because they know that the next generation is ahead of so many problems that we didn't think we're going to see them coming up again. Like, how many people thought that we're going to see the birth of World War III in front of our eyes, the clash of civilizations, like pure evil fighting? Who's fighting the pure evil? You don't see even who's fighting. And it's all just a matter of interest and money and power and honor, and you don't really know what's going on. How could that happen? How could people be so irrational, making such irrational decisions? Either people, or what you call about the wisdom of the masses. The masses are not wise. You see that so much, so often. How do we understand that? And we have that mostly expressed in this parasha. We're going to see that context. The same thing in next parasha, Parashat Korach. We're going to see that in Parashat Chukat again. We're going to see that in Parashat Balak all over again. The next 4 parashot, the main topic is about one thing. You could be the smartest person on earth, the richest, the most powerful, the most dignified, and you're capable of making deadly mistakes, decisions that you think are logical, but from a perspective, it looks like, how could you even think like this? Which means the whole set of these coming 4 weeks about one thing. Human logic is so illogical. Human logic is such a terrible pillar of support and of safety and of certainty, because so many people think that they are making a conscious, logical decision, and later on it looks like, what a fool was I? How could I even think to myself that that was possible? Okay, so, and if we cannot trust the professionals, the wise ones, the people with experience, the people who know much more than we do, those people are the leaders and they have access to intelligence. They have the budget to hire so many professionals to do the analysis of all what's going around. And you see how world economy is in jeopardy. We see this is because there's less and less safety, certainty. Whatever the idea was in the 50s and 60s, in spite of the Cold War, the world was getting a much safer place, a much more organized place, and it's not anymore. It's like we made a mistake somewhere, a big mistake. What's happened? Whose fault was it? And you can't trust those people who are behind that concept, whatever concept it is, I don't want to define it, of bringing humanity into such a place that it looks really clear that soon enough we are going to see, we're already seeing atrocities the size of World War I, World War II, and even both of them together, even more than that, because humanity is much more armed than before. And today, as Einstein was saying, we know what kind of a weapon they're going to use. We don't know exactly, he said, what kind of a weapon they're going to use in the World War III. But we know that World War IV, they're going to use bow and arrows and sticks. So why is it like this? So maybe by understanding that, we will understand what needs to be repaired or to healed in order for humanity to go back on tracks. So what the story is about. Moses is sending the most eligible people, the leaders of the nation, to tour the land, okay? And by the way, they come back, the story is that they come back and they found huge fruits in the promised land. The fruits were remarkable different. So they carried the fruits with them. So the image of the two of the spies holding one cluster of grapes, which basically, if the word is tour and they were the tourists, the first tourists to tour the land, this is the symbol of the Ministry of Tourism in Israel. The two spies with holding a cluster of fruits. So that's what tourism is about. You go to look at the land so you can enjoy it first. However, there are a few hints over here. When it says that God says to Moses, Shelaḥ-Lekha, the name of the Parashah, send for yourself, which means, why for yourself? God knows the results. Does Moses know the results? The Zohar says he did know the results. He just wanted to check it out last time. What do I mean? So let us see what's happening, just to explain the story. So Moses is asking those tourists, those 12 heads of the tribes. And by the way, when you go on espionage, you do not send the president of the land, risking too much. You're sending people, they don't look like spies. You send people that look like anyone, that nobody would think. You know, the real spies don't look like James Bond. They look like someone you've seen thousands of times, you don't remember where from. They look like so many others. They can blend inside the masses. If you can't send a spy, somebody steps up. They're sending the celebrities of the Israelite nation. Okay, of course, There were no social networks at that time and media, so nobody in the land of Canaan knew how they look like. Still, they're leaders. There should be an aura around them somehow of somebody with respect. And then Moses is sending them to tour the land. The word latour, to tour. Lamed is like tour the land. ויאמר עליהם, he says to them, עלו זה בנגב ועליתם את ההר. Go up the Negev because they were south of the Negev. And then you go up the mountain, what we know is the Judean mountains. And you'll see this land. And what kind of land is it? And what kind of people sitting on that land? Are they strong, weak? Are there many of them? Few of them? What kind of a land is that? Is the land rich or poor? And then he's asking a question, verse 20, Hayesh ba'etz im ayin, which is very hard to translate because it's kind of it's a riddle. He's asking, is there a tree in that land or none? Ayin. But if you know a little bit Kabbalah, a tree doesn't say if there are trees. It says if there is a tree. And Ayin means the endless. So is there the tree of life, or can you really connect to the endless in that land? And then he asked them to take from the fruits of the land to show them. So it says they went up the land and they made the tour and stuff like this. I don't want to go into it too much. But then we realize as they're coming back, so they went for 40 days. They left on the new moon of the month of Tammuz. They came back on the 40th day on the 9th of Av. Didn't Moses know the Zohar that says that the 9th of Av is the day of the snake? Of course he knew. He wanted to break the snake. He wanted to break the power of evil. He wanted to test the nation of Israel. If they can overcome the snake on that day, on his turf, on the 9th of Av, then Mashiach can come. Okay? But they couldn't. And then we're asking the question, what happened? What happened? So let me just say what the Torah is saying. Verse 26, 25. They came back from touring the land 40 days later. So it was the 9th of Av. They came to Moses with a report. So they standing in front of Moses, Aaron, and the whole congregation of Israel. It's Midbar Paran. Paran is the desert south of the Negev, the Israeli Negev. And they bring their report and show them the fruit of the land. So they tell the story. Verse 27. We came to the land that you sent us. It's a land of milk and honey. Look at the fruits. Huge, abnormal fruits. Ephes. But they say, but. When you start, I like you, but. It's like the word Ephes, which in Hebrew means also zero. It's like saying, it's a nice thing that's said, but I want to nullify whatever I said before. I said some good stuff, but this is nothing relatively to the bad stuff I'm going to tell you. As ha'am hayoshev ba'aretz, the people dwelling in the land is very powerful. Ve'harim betzurot gdolot meod, that the cities are fortified and are huge. Ve'gam yelidei anak reinu sham, we saw also giants. Wait a second over here. What did we say? We said that this is the beginning of the summer, right? It's a new moon of Tammuz, the first day of the summer. They leave, they come back just 40 days later, which is midsummer, around midsummer. Let's say to be exact, 6 days before midsummer day, with the full moon of the month of Leo. Okay, so it is how many days? So we had Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, 5. It's basically a year and 5. No, it's about a year and 6 months after, and 5 months after the Exodus, which means all of these people were born, grew up, raised in Egypt. Egypt was an empire. They experienced an empire. The size of an empire, the size of cities of an empire, the power of an empire, imperial fortresses, imperial palaces, the pyramids were already built when they were born. Okay, they saw how an empire looks like and the size of an empire. From all the excavations in Israel of that time, the cities of the land of Canaan were tiny city-states, tiny, divided. They were nothing to do with imperial. Till that time, they were client states of Egypt. There was an Egyptian from the excavations that we know today. Until the Exodus, there was an Egyptian government in each one of these cities. The kings of those cities were slaves of Pharaoh, Egypt. Why, when they came, there were no Egyptian over there? Egypt was smitten by the Israelites, 10 plagues, and they had to withdraw their forces from outside countries. Okay, so when those 12 tourists come to the promised land, they don't find Egyptians over there. They were gone. So you think about it. You grew up in an imperial Egypt. You've seen the power of an empire, maybe the strongest empire on earth at that time. You can tell the difference between an empire and poor city-states. They were not even able to create one state. And you know, Egypt is a huge country. The land of Canaan is tiny. Relatively to Egypt, this is nothing. Nothing. Tiny. Okay? Just think about the population of Egypt today, 100 million. The population of Israel is about 10 million. You know, we're talking about, and what are we talking about? And even those days, Egypt was so much more populated. What on earth came to them to think that if we saw the 10 plagues, we've seen the splitting of the Red Sea, we've seen how Egypt drowned in the sea, we've seen the pillar of fire, the pillar of smoke, of the cloud, and we've seen Mount Sinai Revelation. That was just not long ago. And now we come to this joke country, Canaan, with this joke city-states that were so tiny in their, you know, they say vast cities. The size of the cities of Canaan at that time, relatively to the cities of Egypt, was like maybe just a block. You know, when you have a block in the city, that was the biggest size of a city in Canaan. You want even to compare that? How on earth they thought even that if we just a few months ago brought Egypt to its knees, how come we cannot? Just think about it. City-states, how big were they? Few thousand people. The biggest could be maybe with the villages around, maybe 10,000 people. How many Israelites were there in the age of army? 600,000 from the age of 20 to the age of 60. We are talking about a huge army and by any means, even with today's armies. With today's army, an army of 600,000 people, okay, that you can organize them, get them together, and then you attack. Even by today's numbers, when the whole of humanity is billions, 600,000 is huge. What came into them? Even a little kid will tell you, they must be crazy. So the question is again, if we cannot trust leaders that have so much experience, leaders that they have like huge intelligence, huge amount of academy, people of academy that you can pay them salaries to evaluate. You have institutions of professionals to evaluate what's going on, what's happening, economy, demography, everything. There's so much information. And you still cannot make a rational, proper decision. And that's the problem with our leaders. What about our own decisions? So we go back to the late Professor Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize in 2002 for proving exactly as what the Torah is teaching us. When people come to make a very important decision connected to their financial situation, buying, selling, getting in partnership, anything of that kind of a very like a stepping stone in your destiny of, in your economical state. Most people do not make a logical decision. They think they do. They don't. He proved that right, and he got a Nobel Prize for that, to show that even though we think we are logical, even though we think we are enlightened, even though we think we have access to a lot of information, and we have certainty that we made the right decision, buying, selling, a business, a house, whatever, signing, contract, partnership, whatever, finally, most of the times, what makes us decide is our gut feeling, not pure logic and information. So when people say, remember that, when people say, I am objective, and I give you my objective opinion, they will lie to you about anything else. No one is objective. Everyone is biased. And if you want to go more, I spoke about it many times, read Daniel Kahneman book that was published just a few years ago, Noise, in which he explains we have a lot of anguish in our modern society. In what case? Let's say you take a certain house for appraisal. You take few professionals, the best in their profession in the country. Would they come up with the same number? We know no. Sometimes the difference could be like a lot of 20%, 60%, even more. Let's say what is giving another example, they took 15 cases of a criminal case that brought in front of a judge in the US. 15 cases. The verdict is similar cases, and the verdict went from few months of social work to 15 years in jail. And all the in between. What does that mean? Does that mean that, but we thought that in democratic free society, there is some amount of fairness, okay? That you have some, you committed some felony, okay? So you're going to get the same punishment. No, you don't. Some people get very terrible punishment. Some people get without almost nothing. If you don't feel that your authorities are fair toward you, that there's equality, you have a problem. This is the betrayal of the professionals. How did we arrive to such a position? So let the Zohar decipher this very important question today, which means I don't really feel that I get a fair, equal treatment by professionals like appraisals, insurance appraisal, house appraisal, banks when I'm coming to ask for a loan, or there's so many. There's so many, and just asking for simple solution to a problem by my leaders. So let us start. Verse 9 is very surprising. In the Zohar of Parashah Shelaḥ-Lekha. ככה זה, משה איתימה דלהב הידע דלא יאולה הרע בזמן הדע, לאו אחי, אלא ידע. והבה באי למדה מינה, עד לה הסתלק. ושלח לעינין מעללי, כיוון דלא היטיבו מילה כדקאיות, לא שלח זמנה אחרה. עד דקודשה ביו אחזה לה דכתיב עלל הר עברים, הזה הוא רואה את הארץ. וכתיב ויראהו השם את כל הארץ. ולא דע בהלכותו, אלא כל עינון דזמנין למעיקם בכל דרה ודרה, כולו אחזי לי אל משה דהתמר והוא כמו החבריה. Translation. Come and see. Moses, if you're going to say that Moses did not know that he will never enter the promised land, no, he knew. He knew, however, he wanted to connect to the promised land before he passes on. And therefore he sent those spies. Since they did not come with the right answer, he did not send another mission of spies till the Creator showed the land to him, where it says, just in the last chapter of the Torah, in Deuteronomy, the end of Deuteronomy, and then it says, and God showed him the land. Not just he showed him the land, he showed him all the leaders that are going to lead in that land till the end of all generations. He saw beyond geography and beyond time, beyond space, the dimension of space and the dimension of time. Moses could see all of it in advance. He knew he cannot enter the promised land, not now, not before the tikkun is completed. And we already learned, and we already explained it before. So that's why we can understand. כיוון שהתחיל משה לשלוח, since he was sending them, מה אמר להם? What did he tell them? היש בעץ? Is there a tree? וכי מה הוא שאמר זה? What does it mean, is there a tree? So Moses said, if you are going to see the tree of life in the promised land, I know I'm going to enter. What does it mean, the tree of life? Moses said, if they are going to taste the tree of life in the promised land, when they come back, they will have total certainty. And they will bring that certainty to the people, and the people will connect to that certainty, and they will say, let's go for it. And then Moses would know there is a connection to the tree of life. The connection of the tree of life in the promised land is unconditional. Can everybody connect to it? No. No. People either love the land of Israel, the Holy Land, insanely. Some people hate the place with vengeance. Why? Because it's an unusual place. This is the land of the tree of life. The question is, are you ready to experience the tree of life? Are you ready to be at oneness with the tree of life when you come in? And if you are not ready to be at one with the tree of life, you won't be able to stand the promised land. And you know what happens when you can't stand something? First, you don't stand that person, and then your logic is trying to find out why is it that you hate him. It's not that you hate the person because of some logical reasons. No, first you hate him, and then you tell yourself, why do you hate him? So, of course, you can have an issue in which you trusted that person, he betrayed you, now you hate them, could be, okay? But it's nothing rational because, people betray, that's what people do the best. They become illogical and then they betray because they get hysterical, upset, whatever. You just name it. But what Moses said, I'm sending those people, the best I can find, to tour the land, and they will be my litmus paper. If they come back excited about the land, and they will get the whole nation rally behind them with their excitement, I know it's my time to go into the Holy Land, because what the Zohar is teaching us, if Moses entered the Holy Land, Mashiach will come. But for that, the people had to be ready for it, and they were not ready. The Israelite nation was not ready for the coming of the Mashiach. Why? Because coming of Mashiach means that every individual, as it says in the book of Jeremiah, in the book of Isaiah, in the book of Ezekiel, it's everybody repeats it. When do we see Mashiach coming? Will there be a human being who will do the job for us? If somebody will do the job for us, so why did we have the Tzimtzum? Why in the first place we came to this world that is full of contradictions? And the answer, we came to this world so we can have ownership over our own personal redemption. Okay? So the moment somebody says Mashiach will come, and then there's no free will anymore because everything will be automatically okay. So the one who say Mashiach means he fixes everybody, he makes a tikkun for everybody, nobody has to bother with the tikkun, and from now on we are connected directly to God without any disturbances. So why was this world created in the first place? It was created to give us that distance, being far away from the Creator, having doubts and all kinds of other passions and whims that are false, overcome those doubts, and then getting the connection on. This is Messianic age. Moses wanted to know if the leaders and the people are ready for it. So that was a test. If the spies came to the land and said, and simply saw the picture, just a second, God brought us up to here we didn't believe it's possible to get out of Egypt. We didn't believe it's possible to defeat the Egyptian army. We didn't believe it's possible to get a whole nation of that size into the desert without a catering service. All of these impossible miracles happened in front of their eyes just within the previous year and a little bit more. And you're saying that you can't see the miracle happening again? What's happening to you? For Moses, they were the litmus paper. He knew that the people are not ready. Getting connected to the tree of life in the land of Israel, the promised land, you have to be ready. You have to purify yourself before you get into the land. You have to elevate yourself so the power is not intimidating. A lot of people, till today, they get intimidated. If not when they're in Israel, at least when they come to Jerusalem. And that's why they don't come back to Jerusalem. Some people, not just that they're not intimidated, when they come to Jerusalem, they get such high levels of energy and connection and awareness, they have to come back every few months or few years just to re-experience that calibrating experience of connecting to the true self. But most people are not ready yet to connect to the true self. Therefore, they can't stand Jerusalem. Therefore, they can't stand the promised land. They want to understand why is it that everything in that land intimidates them. But because you have to remember, most of the times when human beings are logical, it's after their emotional side already made up the decision, right or wrong, I hate, I love, should be, shouldn't be, all of that stuff. Nothing to do with a real logical procedure of evaluation. And Professor Kahneman explains it in his book, Noise, and he's saying, the moment you get up in the morning, if it's a rainy day or sunny day, if it's a very hot day or let's say freezing day with ice sheets outside, that will change your judgment as a judge, as a banker, as a business person, as a doctor, anything. Your decisions were so much ruled by all kinds of stuff that happen around you, you're not even aware that your brain is being exposed to all kinds of forces that change your brain. So, and therefore, your brain is going to, you would think that you made a rational decision. Later on, you say, you know, I was so smart making that decision. And how many times, weeks later, months later, years later, I'm saying to myself, I thought I'm smart. What an imbecile. How could I be so unaware of all the problems? What did I think to myself? What is the solution? How do we know? And that's, we'll complete with verse 10, where it says, if you think, if, you know, Moses wanted them to see if there is a connection to the tree of life in the promised land. So Moses said, if they find the tree of life, I know I can enter the land. If the spies and the people around, when they come back and make the report, if all of them are in a state of mind of God took us out of Egypt and he is not going to escort us in to the promised land, we know it's going to be. You know, what other options do we have? We trust it, we know it, let's do it. Then there's a tree of life. So Moses said, if there's a tree of life in the Holy Land, I'll get in with them. And if not, I cannot enter the Holy Land. Why? Because the Zohar says, when they come to the promised land, Moses was like the sun. You know, a time comes that the sun must set so the moon and the stars can shine. Moses had to be like the sun to experience the sunset, so Joshua and the Israelites can shine and take over the land on their own. Very simple. It's all about ownership. It's all about achieving it on your own, because otherwise you cannot really enjoy it. So what's in it for us? So there's an article that looks like it doesn't belong over here, but it is exactly, it belongs over here, and it is even giving us the answer. We skip to verse 18 in the Zohar of Parashah Shelaḥ-Lekha. Rabbi Chizkiah and Rabbi Yisa היו הולכים בדרך. Rabbi Chizkiah and Rabbi Yisa, they were walking on the road. אמר רבי יisa לרבי חזקיה, אני רואה שיש בך ערעור. Okay, they start a debate, and a debate to think about the words of King Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes, where it says in chapter 3, when King Solomon says, whatever happened to people and to animals, it's the same thing. Now we know that the words of King Solomon, all of them are hidden in the levels of wisdom. He was hiding them. But this is very simple. And we have kind of an opening for people who don't have faith. So what do you want us to do? It's the same. There's no difference. There's no really free will. Human beings, animals, they don't have any free choice. So it continues, verse 21. And he gives the answer. So they find somebody, they meet somebody on the road, and he gives them the answer. And they ask him, how do you explain this verse? And he told them, אמר להם, על זה אמר שלמה מקרא זה ולא אמר זה ממחשבתו עצמו, כשאר הדברים שאמר. When King Solomon said that, what he said, it was not coming from his mind. He basically, what he said, that what happens to animals and to people, it's basically the same. Why? Because we are a naked ape. That's what people are. We're just, how should I say? That's what the Zohar tried to say. We are just naked apes. We are just animals. And we think that we have free will, but we're still being run by our genes, our selfish genes. There was a book like this, The Selfish Gene. We're being programmed by our education. Basically, we don't have any free will. Same way as animals. We just imagine, fantasize that we do have free will, but all our decisions are basically maneuvered, engineered by our upbringing, our victories and failures, by traumas and excitements, by the way the people around us talk, the way people around us behave. This is programming our reaction to anything, even the most important decision that is brought in front of us, like who to get married with, where do I work, what should I do as a career, how do I make a living, where should I live, what city, what state, what country, what continent. And what he says is basically what King Solomon was not asking a question, but when he said that what happens to people, what happens to animals, it's all about the same. King Solomon was basically quoting what the fools are saying about reality. Oh, you are in a special place. No, you're not. You're just in the place that your education, mine in engineering, depends what? In the education system, grade 1, grade 2, 3, whatever, elementary school, high school, university, everything that's happening around you, it's all about programming you to react in a certain way. But what does Zohar say? So it's not God's intervention. It's not God's supervision. It's about God is not involved at all. And that's why it says what happens to animals and to people is the same thing. It's motivated by the lowest whims, desires, and passions. And therefore, we are being controlled, managed by those passions. So when we're talking about Daniel Kahneman and his book, that's exactly what he's saying. You are not the same person if you slept well at night or not. You're not the same person if you experience love that night or this morning, or you experience betrayal. And therefore, your decisions are going to be different. So what King Solomon was saying, verse 22, וכששלמה הסתכל בטיפשים אלו, he said, most people are so foolish. They say that we humans have no free will. We are like sophisticated animals. We don't have free will. Not really. And we know from the words that the answers they give him. How do we know? Because the verse before it is proving that. When it says, אמרתי אני בליבי על דברת בני אדם לברם, האלוקים בלראות שהם במים האלם. The previous verse in Ecclesiastes is saying, I was feeling, what I'm talking about is I'm talking about those people that say that everything that happens is just nature. No divine intervention ever. And basically whatever happens is random. No one is managing this show. So I was thinking to myself, for what? On those words of people, that the world is going by just probabilities. No divine intervention. So those people who say that, they should be alone on their own. And that reminds me that very, very powerful sentence that Rabbi Shimon says in the beginning of the book of Shemot. I think it's verse 91. And he's saying, it says very clearly, and Rabbi Shimon raised his hands up to heavens, and he cried, and he said, woe to those who would live in that generation. And happy are the people going to live in that generation. Why? Because if somebody wants to be comfortable, to feel certainty, to feel okay with his life in this generation, when the Zohar is revealed to all, for some people it's going to be woe. Terrible. Disastrous, terrible life. For some people, it's going to be such an exaltation, elevation, and protection that will be like Noah's Ark. But what is going to make the difference? Emunah. We spoke about it last time. Emunah means the ability to have a connection with God. When you have that connection, then you realize that the freedom of will is connecting to God or connecting to all the diversions that God created around me. Why did he create such a divergence, such a multitude of opportunities to think about? So many temptations, food, whatever. There's so much of it. Why God surrounded me with so many temptations? And the answer is because uh, raising ourselves above the animalistic frequency of, which is, if you know animals, you had a dog and a cat, they have ego, they have pride, they really care of what people think about them. We are the same. So what makes us different? Only where it says, our sages, Hakol bidei shamayim chutz mirat shamayim. Everything depends on the heavens except from the awe of heavens. Why is it that I cannot achieve awe? Awe is a mixture of awareness, and love. When you have that awe, is because you have the merit to experience and to bathe in or with the light of the Creator. That means that you have somehow to let go the other senses, which means the worldly senses, which means I have to have that bread, I have to have that meat, I must have that wine, and so on and so forth. When we are addicted to mundane physical pleasures, instead of being addicted to the brain that we stimulate, connecting to the tree of life, it's two different worlds. And what's the difference? Because the people would know, says Rabbi Shimon, in our generation, that yes, there will be so much of contradictive information. A lot of scientists say, science can prove there's no God because we cannot prove there's a God. The fact that you cannot measure God does not mean you can't test him. Of course, you cannot measure God. Can you measure the endless? Okay. By the way, can science measure everything? No, we know there are many, many frequencies and particles that science did not discover yet. Once in a while, they get more efficient and more advanced, and they can find parts of the picture they didn't see before. So there's always something that is left behind. So when we are talking about knowledge, information, understanding, awareness, that is so much higher than whatever you experience till today. And then you try to make that connection and you fail. And what's your reaction? Oh, nobody can make it. It was just a dream. So let's settle for that, for less. I'm not a magical creature. I'm, as a human being, I cannot connect to the metaphysical dimension of this universe and all its levels and olamot behind me. I can't see that. It doesn't make sense. Why? Because your brain is somehow not experienced with it. Even when you study, study Harry Potter book, it is explained again and again what every magician knows in the history of magic. The Zohar says so. No pain, no gain, and for free you get only troubles. You want to become a powerful magician, you need a lot of exercise. You need a lot of effort. You need a huge amount of passion. Without that passion, you cannot create magic. What does it mean, magic? So there was research about magic, about the power of the brain in the Soviet Union during the time of the communist regime. And they found out that people can have very strong powers of telekinesis, moving objects, when they get very, 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 very excited. But they could get to work for them only people that could get excited about rage, anger, okay? That's also very emotionally powerful, okay? But that's not the power the Torah is talking about. The power the Torah is talking about is the power of love, the power of simply being there for someone totally. This is another kind of power. Oh, yeah, there's a power of the dark side, there's a power of the light side. There's a power, even you can read it in Harry Potter. When you activate rage, anger, and hatred, and you turn them into metaphysical power, it is a high and a buy. There's a huge payment for that. Huge. You have an instant gain and eternal loss following. When you connect to the holiness, the tree of life, you have a huge effort to be invested and then you get an eternal enlightenment. Today, you don't teach that in schools, not in the academy. Today, you teach, you really have passion. Doesn't matter, as long as you have passion, you can make, and what do you do with the passion? You make money, power, politics. With that, you make more money, okay? They don't teach you that hatred is out of business. No, no. Any kind of excitement and passion is good because you can cash it in. If it is about commerce, it's about productivity, it's about marketing, sales, politics. You just have to show power. People want power. They don't tell you. There's a dark power and light power. So where it says those fools that do not know the wisdom, and they say the world is only run by randomity. The survival of the fittest only by random actions. And there's no godly supervision. There's no godly plan. But מקרה האדם ומקרה הבהמה, מקרה אחד המה. This is again from the book of Ecclesiastes, when King Solomon is saying that humans, animals, basically it's all the same. There's no free will. Just trying to find the exact... it is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 19. Which means whatever happens, you know, if you're righteous, you're not, there's no cause and effect. Your spiritual, your moral state does not affect your life. So if you want to ask, why do bad people suffer? Or good, right? Why do the righteous suffer and the evil prospers? It's all random. They're just stronger. They're more strong-minded. Okay? There's no godly thing over here. You can't prove God existence, and therefore you don't have to listen to him. So verse 22 in the Zohar. כששלמה הסתכל בטיפשים אלו, so when King Solomon was looking, observing those fools who say that, שאומרים זה קרא אותם במה, he called them beasts. Humans, they look like humans, but they are beasts. I don't know if you know, but in the biblical language, and I think it went also, you know, whoever studies Bible studies, blial. There's an expression called blial. Blial is it means a terrible person. But it doesn't mean to, so in Hebrew. In Hebrew, blial is a combination of two words, bli, without, ya'al, ascension. So when you say that person has no chance for ascension, it means because he's not willing or is not capable of ascension to where? The tree of life. Because of that, he is capable of evil. Why? He has no conscience. He is not following morals and ethics that are higher from his plane. What was the message of Mount Sinai? What was the message of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? I have my brain. I have my logic. I cannot trust it. Only if I follow my deep belief system, only if I follow my journey to unite with the tree of life, only when I'm doing my best with all my efforts to elevate above my fears, my passions, my anxieties, only then I can experience elevation, ya'al. Blial is ya'al. I can elevate. And when I elevate, my brain transforms. my brain allows me to see through the veil of all of those low emotions that veil our brain and make us make terrible decisions, because those decisions, where did they come from? When you choose to be subjected to the drives of your body, your evil inclination, your lower self, fake self, all of those emotions that play with us and manage us, when I allow them to control me, to take over the panel, the board, whatever will come out will be against my real interest. But when I don't want the results like this, when I just want to elevate above the hatred, the fear, the anxiety, the lust, greed, when I'm capable of elevating myself, then who comes into power? The tree of life. And when I'm connecting to the tree of life, who leads the tree of life? Who put the thoughts in my mind and who puts the words in my mouth? Who put the decision in my heart? The tree of life. After I chose the tree of life over the tree of death. So when people make themselves as a Zohar, beast, we are just, we just rats in a rat race of evolution. In that race of the fittest, of the survival of the fittest. So whoever is pushing harder has better chances to reach the top. And that's why when King Solomon said, I said with my heart, in my heart, about the words of people, that there's no God. It's only like beasts. That's what who we are. So King Solomon said, I was pondering about it. I was contemplating about it. On those words of people, on these words of stupidity, they simply don't want to take responsibility for what they feel, for what they think, and then the logic that comes out of the emotions. So they try to say that the world is just random. There's no divine providence, which means God is outside of the picture. Let's say the ones who say God created the universe. There's no other way. However, he's not there anymore. He's on vacation. He's not intervening. How do you know? Look at the atrocities. Look at the suffering that humanity was going through the last few thousand years, as much as we remember. So much injustice. So either you say, how could God allow that? And you turn against God with anger, with vengeance. And then you cannot see anymore the miracles. You cannot see anymore that in the long term, whatever happened always led to a better position for humans, and therefore also for God. That there is a purpose to the journey. There's a mission. There's a meaning behind everything that we're going through, about how unlimited people can be, how magical can people be, and how faith can basically defeat the fastest, the strongest, the most powerful, the richest, just with the power of faith. And more than that, King Solomon adds, those people that think that everything is by mistake, it's by probability, God is making sure they will be around their own kind. So it's like a big uh what do you call it? Message box that they just echo each other's disbelief. And because of that, they see the world through the stupidity. And where is the stupidity coming from? Because you get scared. You get scared when you see that people do good things and they're being punished. They're not being punished. They're growing through growth. But you prefer not taking responsibility. So when you stick to faith, true connection to God, and how would that happen? Only by taking responsibility for your own failures. And what you see in Parashat Shelaḥ-Lekha, you see, yes, the spies did a horrible thing. And you know what? They died because of that. What about the whole nation that listened to them and cried and complained? They were judged to die in the desert. They could not enter the Holy Land. But were they cast away? No. And what this parasha is showing, even when we make the biggest mistakes, God always gives us plan B of correction. So if you fall, doesn't matter how terrible is a mistake, you cannot give it up. You cannot give up. You cannot settle for less. The fact that you made a mistake, the greatest people on earth made mistakes. Moses made mistakes. Does that mean that you made a mistake, it's over? No. It's very comfortable to say that was a terrible mistake, no forgiveness, which means what? I don't need to take responsibility anymore. So the heck with everybody, with everything. And I'm angry about God, and therefore I'm turning my back to him because he turned his back to me. What is the Zohar saying? No, even when you fall, your quest for faith is still on. Never give it up. Why? Because you don't have any choice. You always have to go back to it because you want to think clearly. You want to make the right decisions about yourself, your children, whatever, who to get married with, where to study, where to live, who to do business with. If you have faith, your brain will be open to see the best results. But if you don't have faith, your brain will be full with all kinds of fears, all kind of noise, according to Kahneman. And that noise will take over, and you're going to make decisions that you will regret. You will have to go by loops again and again till you start making amends. You'll have to, sooner or later. But you can't trust your brain when it's full of negative thinking. And of course, the result of your decision of those will be bad decisions. When you're angry, never make decisions. When you're full of lust, never make decisions. When you're hungry, don't go do shopping because you're being managed by very low forces in yourself. You have to be in a higher place. You have to trust. You have to make all efforts to reach above. So finally, you can make the right decisions. So this is right about yourself. This is about right about our leaders. Without true faith, it's just a disaster for yourself and for the people who trust you. And we're in that journey of learning that. Thank you. Hold tight and never give up. All the best.